Hi, my name's Denise Vansant. I'm the broker at Vansant Realty Group here in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. And today I have with me Beth Klepper from Home Team Inspection Services in Myrtle Beach. Beth is the owner,
Yes,
and she's also a licensed home inspector.
that is correct. Yes.
Beth, tell us a little bit about yourself and your company.
So, as you mentioned, I'm the owner of Home Team Inspection Service. Home Team is a national franchised home inspection company. I'm the owner as well as licensed inspector. I've personally done well over 1,000 home inspections here in Horry and Georgetown County. Home Team is a little different in that we send a team of inspectors to each inspection. So there'll be two inspectors on all single family homes, and we go through the entire property very thoroughly and efficiently.
When I'm working with a buyer
Mhm.
and I send over a purchase of agreement and becomes a ratified contract, the seller and the buyer are now under contract to buy a particular property.
Mhm.
The buyer has a period of time here in South Carolina that we call due diligence. During this time of due diligence, which is a negotiated time, usually around 7 to 14 days,
Mhm.
the buyer has the opportunity to get all of their inspections done, whether it be home inspections, um, land surveys, find out the HOA rules and regulations, foundation inspections, environmental inspections, and whatever else kind of inspection they want to get done. This is when they're doing it during this due diligence period.
Correct.
So when we get to that point, this is when the buyer will contact a home inspection company, and this is where you come in. So let's tell our buyers a little bit about what you're looking for during the home inspection.
So, during a home inspection, we are trying to paint a good picture of the condition of the home for the buyer at the time of purchase. That's really all we're doing. We're not code inspectors. We just go in and tell them what's working, what's not working, and you look for any unsafe conditions is a big part of our inspection as well. So we go through the property top to bottom. As I mentioned, we work in teams. So one inspector will be outside while the other is inside. We go through the entire property top to bottom, starting with the roof and the siding, everything on the exterior, and the electric, in the garage, we're looking at the electrical panel, the water heater, all the components of the home. Inside, we are testing all of the appliances. So we run the dishwasher and the oven and make sure that everything is working properly, as well as the heating and air conditioning, plumbing. We run water everywhere, make sure there's hot and cold water, look for any leaks. Just really generally go through the entire property, make sure it's working properly. Open every window, go in the attic and in the crawl space, places that people aren't going to necessarily look during a walkthrough of a home. We're going to go through all of it and let the buyer know what's working and what's not working.
Mm-hmm. What are some of the more common things that you find during home inspection?
We find a lot of plumbing leaks. That's something that's very common, whether they be faucet leaks or drain line leaks or supply line leaks. But and those can be found in many different places. They might be from the air conditioning unit in the attic might be leaking. Could be sinks, under cabinets. We find in crawl spaces the lines leaking as well. We find things just not working in general. A lot of lights not working or outlets not working. No GFCI protection on an outlet is very common. That's anywhere the ground fault circuit interrupter should be anywhere there's water. So in kitchens, bathrooms, laundry rooms, garages, and exterior, GFCI protection is required so the outlet trips if it gets wet. We find it very common that in older homes it was not required. So there are many
Exactly.
properties that were not required to have them. So we do find that frequently. Even in newer construction, things are often overlooked. They're missed. There might be one or two outside that aren't covered, or the laundry room is typically overlooked a lot because that was one of the last ones to become code. So now has to be gone back and added for GFCI protection. Find a lot of things not working. Anti-tip bracket on a stove is a very common thing. It just
Yes.
keeps it, prevent it from tipping over. So safety concern. We find air conditioning not cooling enough, especially in temperatures in the heat of the summer here. Should be a minimum of a 10-degree difference between the air return and the register. And that's a very minimum, and oftentimes it is not. So we need to just get it serviced. Possibly something that need to happen.
Mm-hmm. I know HVAC problems are a huge concern because they're an expensive replacement.
They are.
So I always recommend a separate HVAC inspection from my home inspection to my buyers to cover all their bases. And also, the buyers can also go out and choose to get a whole separate roof inspection on top of
Correct.
what you're already going to tell them. So they can cover their bases with that. Always good because a lot of the roofs, if they're older, it's going to
Yes.
present a problem for you. And not only that, it could affect your insurance rates on the home with an older roof.
Absolutely. And we look at the roof from both sides. So we're looking at the roof from above, from outside, and looking at that, and also from the attic is a huge part. You can often see any issues with the roof from the attic. You can see your previous water stains, any rotted wood, trusses, anything that might be up there that we would contribute to the functionality of the roof as well.
Condos.
Mhm.
What do you tell my standard approach when I have a buyer with a condo is that I do tell them to go ahead and get a home inspection, but with them, I always tell them to get a separate HVAC inspection as well. A lot of the condos down here might be exposed to moisture and come up with mold issues.
Yes.
I've seen that often with my buyers with their HVAC inspections. Do you do mold testing?
Yes, we do. We do two different types of mold testing. We do a tape lift sample. So if we see what appears to be mold, if it looks like mold, a mold-like substance, we'll take a tape lift of it and we can send that off to a lab. We also do an air quality sample as well. So if you just feel that the room is musty, but you don't see any specific signs of it, we can take the air quality sample. Again, we send that off to a lab and you have the results typically within 24 to 36 hours for that as well.
Very smart thing. Mold can cause tons of health issues.
Absolutely.
So it's a good thing to do if you think that there's mold in the home. Another thing that we sell a lot of here in the South Carolina area in general, but especially here in Myrtle Beach, is that we have manufactured homes.
Yes.
And one thing a lot of people are not aware of, if you're buying a manufactured home that comes with the land, and that's a whole nother discussion, lease land versus come with the land.
Correct.
But a manufactured home that comes with the land and you have FHA financing, you need to have a foundation inspection.
Yes, you do. It's a separate HUD certification that is required, and we do those as well. So we do that either in conjunction with a home inspection or just by itself. So if your lender is requiring that, absolutely, we can do that also. So that is something that has to be sent off. The results of our inspection have to be sent off to an engineer, to a structural engineer that reviews all of the information that we provide and then sends back the certificate to us that we afford to you.
And without that certificate, they can't get financing.
Correct.
So, and that's really only applying to FHA loans, but I would recommend it for anyone, cash buyer, conventional, FHA. When you're buying a manufactured home, definitely get the foundation inspection. They can have lots of issues going on with them. Tell me some of the more common things you see going under the underbelly of that manufactured home. It's exposed to the elements
Yes,
and
yes, it
age
is.
and repairs with people tearing the insulation and not making
Yes.
repairs after.
That's one of the most common is that a manufactured home. Some people aren't aware that the manufactured home it has a black lining, essentially the underbelly, undercarriage people call it, that is covering all of it. So in a manufactured home, typically you shouldn't be able to see anything under there. All you would see is this black lining. However, in order to access any plumbing, you have to cut it open and do the repair. So people do that over the years. You have a plumbing leak, they're going to cut open that undercarriage and they're going to fix the leak, but often leave it just like that. And they do not repair that undercarriage. And we find hanging insulation, rotted wood. It's all exposed to the elements. You can get mold under there as well. It's definitely can cause more problems over time the longer it's left exposed. So that's one of the biggest things we find in the manufactured homes. And then the tie downs, not as part of the HUD certification. That's something that we're looking for, making sure that it's on a good foundation.
And the tie downs are especially important because if we have a hurricane come through here, we don't want that home to go flying away.
We do not. That's correct.
Yes. So, and these are things that if you don't get the inspection, your buyer will never know that they're missing the tie downs. Their home could fly away in a storm. I don't think that and I've sold a lot of manufactured homes. I don't think that I've ever sold one that hasn't had a tear in the undercarriage. The repairs are done and people don't fix it when they're done.
Correct. It's very often. That's most of the ones I've seen have all had at least one spot that has been cut open.
Yeah. Some of the other common issues with the manufactured homes I see is roof issues.
Yes. Yes. So typically they're very low sloped. the roof, the manufactured home roofs, and they don't have attic access, so we cannot see anything that's behind those. So manufactured homes in general just don't have attic access. There's no space there, so they roofs can be a big problem on a manufactured home. Absolutely.
Not to mention electrical issues and plumbing issues. A lot of those manufactured homes, they're older. And well, if they're built prior to 1978, they could have lead paint issues. Okay, and that is supposed to be disclosed in your property disclosure. So it's something that the buyer should be aware of. But you don't want your dog or your child chewing on a windowsill with lead paint. But with that being said, some of the other issues I see are electrical. The electric gets old,
Yes,
and the plumbing could, be copper. It could be the old plumbing.
could be.
It
Could
may
be
not be up.
polybutylene plumbing as well. So there are definitely, that's one of the things we look for is the type of piping that is in there, and then we look anywhere that we can see it. So anything that's visible, anywhere we can go to find any plumbing lines, we look at that and see the condition of them and what type they are, because there are a lot of issues with different types of plumbing lines. Yes.
While I'm thinking about manufactured homes, because another problem, we live in South Carolina, and I know that you're not doing CL 100s, but since we're talking about inspections, I thought I'd take a moment to mention it. A CL 100 is an inspection for wood-bearing insects, which termites are a huge problem anywhere in South Carolina. Now, that CL 100 inspection is a whole different contingency in the contract. It's not part of the due diligence. But since we're talking about inspections, we always, 100% of the time, recommend a termite inspection, even if there's a termite bond on the house.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So, and we'll talk about that at another time, not now, but because it's a different type of contingency, which allows someone to walk away from the contract. Because this is the buyer's time during due diligence to get all of their inspections done, all of their questions answered, with the exception of the CL 100. Because in South Carolina, and everything I'm saying in this video is specific to South Carolina real estate law. During due diligence, we get all our questions answered. If the buyer wants to walk away from their purchase for any reason, they don't like the color of the drapes, they found something else they want, they can, and they only lose a termination fee.
Correct.
And that is something that is negotiated at the time of the purchased contract. That is negotiated between the buyer and the seller. And it could be any amount of money depending on the value of the house. But if the buyer chooses to walk away during the termination period, during the due diligence period, they'll lose that termination fee. They won't lose their escrow because escrow hasn't come into play yet. So it just seemed like a good idea to get it in right now while we're talking about that. But once Beth is done her inspection, or your home inspector has done their inspection, what do? You send me a copy.
So, yes. So we go through the entire property. We provide same day reports. So the same day we do the inspection, the buyer's agent as well as the buyer get emailed a copy of the inspection. So that home inspection is probably going to be 30 to 40 pages long, typically has lots of pictures in it. The first page is a summary section. It has a list of all the deficiencies that we find in the house. And all of those in our reports, those are hyperlinks to more information in the body of the report. So it takes you into the report and you can look at, gives you more detail and recommendations and the pictures, the supporting pictures that go along with that. So once you get that report, there's a couple different things that you can do. We ask you to read over it. Happy to review it over the phone with you if you haven't been at the inspection. Because certainly the buyers are welcome to be at the inspection, and we would go over them with you at the end of the inspection time, and then what you do with that inspection is really up to the buyer and the buyer's realtor, and that's really what comes. There are a number of different things. Some people just want the information; they just want to know about it. And they say, okay, this is we're fine with that. We just want to know what's wrong with the house. But oftentimes it's used in negotiation with the sellers. That's the most typical thing to do with the home inspection. You can ask the sellers to fix anything. You can ask for a credit for any of those items, often negotiated into the price of the home. Or just, as I said, just have it as an FYI. These are the things that you may need to address. Every inspection, there is no pass fail. There is no, again, we're not code inspectors, so there is no fail. Every condition is of every home is every property is a little bit different. So there are some that are much worse than others, but a lot of people are fine with that. They know that they have a lot of renovations. They just want to know what's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then the big part with the due diligence is that that has to be, so your opportunity is then to put those requests into the seller, and then the seller has the opportunity to respond to that. And that's what must be done by the end of that due diligence period. Because if the seller does not, they don't have to respond at all. If they choose not to respond at that end of that due diligence period, the buyer is left with an as-is contract. So it is just up to them to then they have the house and that they've run out their contingency time. So then they just have that, and then they're stuck with it, even if it's not something, if there were a lot of repairs that they don't want to do themselves.
Right. And when we're scheduling that inspection, it's really time is of the essence. We need to get it done during that period because once the home inspector sends me the report back, it's exactly what I do. I'll go over the report line by line with my buyer.
Mm-hmm.
And if they have any questions, they're also more than welcome to call the home inspector back. Um, but we'll go over that and whatever the buyer chooses to have repaired. Some buyers, if something's simple, they don't want to be bothered with it. They'll say, "We'll just take it." But if they want something repaired, we'll write up that repair addendum. The important thing is it needs to be done prior to the end of due diligence because once your due diligence date hits, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
You're buying the house as is
Yes.
because your escrow is due.
Yes.
So it's timing is of the essence. We get that repair addendum to you before the end of the due diligence period. Has to be over to the seller before then. We have to give them time to respond.
Absolutely. And that's one of the reasons we do same day reports, because we want that way you can book with comfortably that if you were going to do the inspection on the 7th, you'll have the inspection report on the 7th, and then you have hopefully that's at least 3 or 4 days before the end of your due diligence. We have great scheduling availability because we work with teams of inspectors. We do typically 3 inspections per day, and we our goal on a national level is a 48-hour turnaround, meaning the time that from the time you request an inspection to the report is in your hand. We strive to be at 48 hours so that if your due diligence period is very short, you can be confident that you will have that inspection report on time.
And from the realtor's point of view, when I'm writing a purchase agreement for my buyer, and we're talking about the home inspection, I always tell them that they should get a home inspection. Even if the home is listed as is, okay, and they think they're going to go into this home as is, and well, it is as is. I like the home. I'm going to buy it anyway. You never know what's waiting for you, so I always encourage them to get that home inspection no matter what. And another thing I always encourage my buyers is that you pay for the home inspection, so there's no conflict of interest. Your seller's brother or father could be a home inspector, and at that point, I would rather have my own home inspector.
Yes.
The same thing with the CL 100.
Yes. Yes. Typically, we work for the buyer, so the buyer hires the home inspector. We go in. We don't send the report to the seller. The seller, just goes to the buyer and the buyer's agent, and then any negotiations are done through the agents. It's really how we work. So it's the buyer that's getting it because we're trying to tell them the condition of the home. And as you said, even if it's as is, most buyers want to know is this home going to need $4,000 worth of repairs or $40,000 worth of repairs? It can be, or anything in between. It can be a huge difference. So that way, at least they know what they're getting into. So that we see, because most people on a walkthrough do not go in the crawl space. They do not go in the attic. That's not typical. So we're going to go in those places and look and let them know what's right, what's not.
Do you find that often the buyers would like to accompany you on the home inspection so they can have you point out things to them?
Some do. Most of the time, and I think this is very specific to our area or common in our area because we have so many out-of-town buyers, the buyers are not able to be at the inspection. We have a lot of people that are buying sight unseen even. They haven't even seen the property because they're moving from another area. So most of the time for us, buyers are not there, but we definitely encourage it. I call every single buyer that we have every time I get a new client, ask them if they would like to be at the home inspection, invite them to come to the second half. That way I'd say, give us about an hour in the property and then come over, and you can still spend a little time in the property. And at the end of the inspection, we'll walk through with them anything that we have found during the inspection. That way they can see firsthand, they can see, and we can explain, if it's a big deal or not a big deal, or how, what our recommendations would be, and let them see firsthand what it is. Otherwise, if they're not at the inspection, certainly we're happy to review it over the phone with them.
Another group of homes that I think it's a great idea to get a home inspection is new construction.
Yes.
Yes, because when you're buying new construction, it's always, well, first of all, it's always good to have a realtor, an outside independent realtor representing your interests.
Yes.
Because if you go with the listing agent from the buyer, from the builder, they are representing the builder first and foremost. They're working for their seller. And while they're working for you, you don't have the same representation if you have a separate buyer's agent. When my people are buying new construction, I highly encourage them to get a home inspection prior to closing,
Yes.
independent of the builder's inspection. Because then we'll write up a repair addendum directly from our home inspector and we'll give it to the builder, telling them we want these things repaired prior to closing or during that the 90-day checklist period. They may not have time to repair it prior to closing, depending on when it's done, but it gets on that checklist, so it will be repaired. And I find the builders very open to us doing that.
Yes. Yes, we do many new construction home inspections. Again, in our area, new construction is happening is so common. We have so many new developments, and they're being done very, very quickly. They're you drive down any given street in a new neighborhood and you'll see 20 houses being built all at the same time, and things are overlooked. And people often ask me, which builder is better or worse? I don't think it has anything to do with that. It's just things happen on site that day. Someone overlooks something, it doesn't get done, and we're able to go in, as you mentioned, right before closing. Typically, most builders like to have us in about a week before closing, so they still have some time to address any issues we find. But a lot of times they're not ready until a week before, so we have to be, pretty much right at that week before closing mark, and go through through the entire property. And again, clients are welcome to be there for that. Agents are welcome to be there for that, and we'll go through, and sometimes the builders even like to be there. Our representative likes to be there and see exactly what we see, and they often explain what they're going to do. Okay, this is going in tomorrow. This is going in tomorrow. Letting us know that something might not be done yet.
I have a buyer buying new construction in the Myrtle Beach area, and he called me yesterday to ask me if he could bring a builder to the inspection as if the drywall is scheduled to go up, and he wants to have it inspection prior to drywall. He said, "Do I think this is a good idea?" And I told him that, yeah, of course it's a great idea. Why?
Because then you can see the construction methods as well, make sure things are done properly throughout all the phases of construction. Yes, things you can't see once the drywall is up.
Exactly. So, like I said, we all do a lot of new construction down here, so it's definitely a great idea.
Yes.
Anything we haven't covered that?
That's, on the new construction, we also do 11-month inspections as well. And this is for those that may have missed their home inspection, didn't opt to do one, or even if you did do one, things change a lot in the house over the course of 11 months. Most new homes come with a 1-year warranty. And then if we do the inspection, we'd like to have the homeowner there that just bought the house. We put everything on that inspection report, whether it be more on the cosmetic side and everything that we find. We do our full normal home inspection and put it all in one document so that you can use that with the builder to get those repairs done after you've lived in the house for 11 months, and you can see what what may or may not be correct.
Yeah. A lot of my buyers are from out of town. I mean, we have so many people moving here from out of state. It's just unbelievable when you think about it. Oftentimes they can't get here for the walkthrough. They can't. So I have been asked to go tag along with my phone and follow you around and do home inspections, to let them see it. So they're doing a virtual home inspection. It works.
Yes.
It works, and it's a good idea.
Absolutely. Yes.
There was another thing I was going to get. Oh, I knew what it was. Swimming pool inspections.
Yes, we do swimming pool inspections. Absolutely, we check all the components of the home. We're not going into the concrete. Again, a home inspection where it's a visual inspection. What we can see, we're checking all components of the pool though, make sure it's functioning properly. If it's a pool heater, making sure the gate is self-locking, making sure the condition of the pool and the filter and all the components of the pool.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we do those
Yeah.
frequently. We have a lot of swimming pools. Another thing we do, you mentioned condos, and we do a ton of condos. The condos that are bought and sold in this area is unbelievable. So we do those continuously, and we also do a lot of large beach homes. I think with us being a multi-inspector firm, we're able to do those inspections. Oftentimes they have to be done, this time of year. It's Saturday to Saturday, all they're rented, and so someone checks out at 10, someone else is on a Saturday, someone else is checking back in at 4 o'clock. We have to do that inspection in that short window. And even when they're 6,000 square feet, we send 3 or 4 inspectors so that we can still get that done in a timely fashion and make sure that we go through that entire house top to bottom, even when it's giant.
Yeah.
We've done some 17,000 square foot properties, so
That's pretty big.
it is pretty big.
Takes a while.
It does take a while. It does take a little
But-
longer.
Well, we've talked about a lot of great things today, and I hope we've covered everything for our potential clients. If there's something that we haven't discussed, please add it into the comment section. Send us your questions. We'd be more than happy to answer them. And if you like this podcast or some of the others we've done and posted out there under Vansant Realty Group, give us a like and subscribe. And also, don't forget to share it with your friends. Someone you think that would like this information, they could find it useful. Go ahead, share it. We're here to answer questions or to help you purchase properties or get your home inspection done. And please feel free to call. You can check out my website at vansantrealtygroup.com. You can email me. My contact and your contact information will be at the end of this video. Just give us a call or email us at your convenience. Let us know if we can help.